Dark bleedings, everybody. I'm back. I had like 2 weeks off because I was super busy and I thought that I was, really far ahead of my schedule. Turns out I was actually quite behind on my schedule. So I was at FantasyCon in Birmingham, UK last weekend, which is a massive book event. I say massive for the UK. It was in a nice hotel. Lots of us stayed there. There was a bar. Hijinks ensue. And before setting off on this venture, I did promise myself that I would be buying 1 or 2 books max, because I've got 100 or so physical copies of books on my TBR, my personal TBR shelves. Then I've got somewhere in the region of about 50 pending review requests for happygohorror.com, and I just thought I can't just be adding loads of books to that pile. So did I go ahead and get just way too many books? Yes I did. Also, am I wearing a winter bedtime onesie right now? Also yes. So slightly different video for you today. I just wanted to go through my book haul, show you what I got, justify why I spent so much money, and to myself really more than to anyone else. But let me know what you think. If you've read any of these books, let me know in the comments. We can discuss, but no spoilers. Don't be spoiling the books for me, okay? Haven't got to them all yet. First up, I bought Pomegranates by Priya Sharma. This is my first proper Priya Sharma read. She is incredible. So I picked this up on the Friday and I had finished it by Saturday night. And I spent hardly any time in my room. I was with everyone, enjoying the convention with all of my friends and meeting people and having good book chats for as much of that time as possible. And I was exhausted at the end of each day and I was basically asleep as soon as I got into bed. So for me to have managed to read a book over that weekend, even a short novella, is quite something. So this is about a trinity of women over time. Oh, you're such a little void floof. This is Loki. See, don't look at me, look at the camera. Say hey, Loki. This is my little void floof. I'm going to pronounce these names wrong, so just get over it, I guess. The universe is a trinity of women. Hecate, moon goddess in the sky, Demeter, corn mother on the earth, and me, grim Persephone, in the underworld. So this is about 3 connected women over a span of time. It's sort of fantastical and like very steeped in Greek mythology. And then all of, maybe even some Norse mythology. I'm not great on my mythologies, but I do remember all of these names from theatre courses that I took, and we were studying Greek tragedy, and they used to like to bring in the gods back in the day. I think I'm a little bit parched, sorry. So wouldn't want to tell you too much about the book. It's very short, but what I can tell you is that Priya Sharma's writing is absolutely beautiful. Just not purple prose by any means, but just her way with words and the way all of her sentences flow, just mwah, absolutely gorgeous read. And I would recommend Priya to absolutely anyone. Got to meet her at the convention. What a lovely human being also. So that always gives me a boost, especially if I'm buying anything from an indie author or a small or a mid-sized press. If you meet the author and they're a wonderful human being, I'm just so much happier to part with my money. Next up, I have a full review on the website coming this week, and I may even do a whole video review on this. I bought, oh gosh, it's so shiny. I bought Fearful Implications by Ramsey Campbell. It's a short story collection. If you're not reading Ramsey Campbell already, why? If you've never picked up a book of his, you really should if you're a horror fan. People call him the UK's answer to Stephen King, and I think that the reason that he's not as well known as Stephen King worldwide is just because he hasn't had so many like movie adaptations and things like that. I think always like film adaptations do help to like really boost the profile of an author, but Ramsey has been writing for many years. I've been reading him since I was a teenager. I got to meet him for the second time at FantasyCon. He signed this book for me, and he is a wonderful person. He'll give you all the time in the world. His wife is also very lovely. She always comes to the conventions with him, and I can't wait to see him again. This I was sent an ebook ARC from PS Publishing, the publisher, which I was very grateful for. So I got to read the book ahead of time, but I had to get a physical copy for my shelf just because it's wonderful and I will definitely reread it. I started reading it I started reading the first few stories like quite late at night, and they were so scary, and I haven't, even though I've been reading Ramsey Campbell for years, I haven't actually picked up one of his books for quite some time, so that was like a nice reminder to me that he's terrifying. And the best thing about him is that I can't put my finger on why he's terrifying, but he is. Also, if you're an Adam Neville fan, and you know, if you're new to the channel, you might not already know that I'm quite the Adam Neville fan. He's my favourite author. I can tell that Adam reads Ramsey. And he doesn't like imitate his writing style or anything like that, but they both have a way with words that like remind me of each other, and that's a very high compliment. It's a really, really great book. I recommend this if you want to pick up a great, chilling, mixed short story collection. Alrighty, also from PS Publishing, I went to their book launch, can you tell? Absolutely wiped me out. I bought Tracy Fahey's They Shut Me Up. I have read one other book by Tracy Fahey called The Unheimlich Maneuver, which was the Unheimlich Maneuver and Other Tales, Other Stories? Ooh, yeah, this is it. The Unheimlich Maneuver Deluxe Edition from Sinister Horror Company, which I also recommend. They're a really, really great independent horror press. Can't talk them up enough, so check out some of their books. But anyway, this is her new one. This is a novella. I'll be reading this very quickly, I think. I've got such a list of books that I want to read, but I'm dying to get to this one again because Tracy's writing is amazing. And if you're looking for a really, really great female contemporary author to add to your, list of authors that you're obsessed with, Tracy is a great one. And not only is her writing just lovely to read, she's a very, very talented writer just in the technical sense, but her stories, her short stories in the Unheimlich Maneuver are the kinds of stories where you're plodding, like not plodding along like in a bad way, but you think you know what you're reading, and then she sort of just gut punches you at the end, and like the twists that she's able to put on things like really messed me up in a great way. So I can't wait to get into this. I have absolutely no idea what it's about. I just knew it was by Tracy Fahey, so it was an automatic buy, and I can't wait to read it. Also from PS Publishing, Tim Lebbon's short story collection, All Night May Long. What a shock that I bought another Tim Lebbon book, but I can't help it. I saw it there, thought, wow, I don't already have that. So of course I had to get it. Got it signed by the author. Well, that made me look like a liar, didn't it? There it is. There's proof. I saw him. He signed my book for me. I can't wait to get stuck into this. I don't even know how many Tim Lebbon books I read at this point, but what I do know is that I've absolutely loved every single one of them. It has not failed me yet, so I can't wait to get stuck into this. This is actually my first short story collection by Tim Lebbon though, so far I've just read novels. So that'll be interesting. I can't wait to find out what kind of short story writer he is, because it's a different it's kind of a different form of storytelling. So I know that he's a great novelist, and I can't wait to see what he does in short form. Next up, from Flame Tree Press, I just went over there to say hello really, but of course I picked up a book, and it is The Haunting of Henderson Close by Catherine Cavendish. I have no idea what this is about. I don't tend to read a back cover synopsis because I prefer to go into books completely blind if possible, so I just literally picked this up at random. I've heard the name Catherine Cavendish a lot recently, so I just wanted to try her out, see what's going on there, and I can't wait to be spooked. So next up, this is also a PS publisher. I swear I wasn't just stalking PS Publishing, but I think that they put out such beautiful books, and I just love to have them sitting there on my shelves, and they always pick writers of just like great caliber, so I've never disliked a PS Publishing book actually as well on that note. So I got Tommy by Kit Power, which is his first work of non-fiction. He's also known for My Life in Horror, that he used to write as an article series on Ginger Nuts of Horror, and he's since released volumes 1 and 2 in book form, which is great because something very unfortunate happened with the website and they lost most of their content and had to relaunch. So the fact that Kit had just released volume 2, and that was all of the collected ones across both volumes, all of his articles. I'm just so happy that they still exist and you can get them. Kit Power is an absolutely terrific indie author of horror and like sort of horror related nonfiction usually. His nonfiction is as wonderful, possibly even more wonderful than his fiction, and that's like really high praise because I think his fiction is just unbelievable. He's one of those writers that I find so inspiring as an aspiring indie author myself. He comes up with ideas that I wish I'd thought of. He writes like the caliber of his actual writing, like in his like sort of technical skill, makes me jealous, and I really believe that this guy is going to have like a booming literary career. I'm just waiting for him to like get the right pair of eyes on his work, you know, for him to like really take off, get a major publishing deal, and then have films made out of his books. Sorry about that. I tend to get a little bit enthusiastic if I'm talking about the work of Kit Power, but I really just think I really just rate him though, and I want everyone to read him. It's honestly one of the reasons I started Happy Goat Horror, is because I wanted to shout to the world about indie work I love, and Kit Power is like top of that list for me. So yeah, pick this up, can't wait to read it. I don't actually even really know what this is about, but I don't care, because I know that because it's a Kit Power work, I know I'm going to connect with the writing and really enjoy it and go on some sort of emotional traumatic journey probably. So absolutely can't wait for this next one. Now I did go a little stalkerish, and I was looking for this author to buy this specific book, and I found her in the smaller dealer room instead of the bigger one, so that's where I was going wrong. But this is Full Immersion by Gemma Moore. I have read Dear Laura. I was very impressed with it. I have heard nothing but praise for this book. I listened to Gemma on Neil's Talking Scared podcast. I say Neil as if he's a friend. He's never met me. He has no idea who I am, but I've been listening to his podcast for a while, and you know when you have these sort of parasocial relationships with people like other YouTubers, podcasters and stuff, so like you listen to them so much you feel like you know them and like they're your friends and they don't know you exist. So anyway, yeah, I listened to her on his podcast. She was talking about this book and just, you know, her work and everything and her outlook in general when she's writing. And it was really, I would really recommend that episode of the podcast, and the podcast in general, actually. It's my favourite. It's my favourite sort of like author interview podcast, because Neil asks great questions and it's always enjoyable. All I know about this book, because I was really trying too hard not to absorb what she was saying about it as she was explaining it, is that this is about a certain type of like trauma therapy. Very interested, because I'm someone that has experienced PTSD from like a crazy car accident I had this time, and you know, just the regular anxieties and stress of life that we all have. So anything that's sort of so any sort of like story plot that's to do with that kind of stuff, like I tend to really connect with and enjoy normally. So I'm usually very engaged with that kind of topic. So I'm really excited. And also I just love the cover. I know you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but I do it. Like I basically bought all of these books because of covers and little snippets I hear about them. So this is actually going to be bumped right to the top of my reading pile for like my personal TBR, and all of these are going to have reviews on the website, by the way, when I get to them. But I'm just finishing The Hunt by Tim Leben, and then I'm going to move on to this one next. These three were gifts from a writer that I think is great, Adam Millard, who I got to see for the first time in years at the convention, so that was a delight. Swimming in the Sea of Trees, The October Boys, which... Ooh, sorry, Adam. The October Boys, which I know is quite a well-known book of Adam Millard. I see this posted quite a lot still, and I think it came out years ago. And Gods and Mobsters, which is also a really popular one. Now, once again... I don't actually know what any of these are about. I'm not going to read the back covers of them, but what I do know is that Adam Millard is hilarious. I read a book that he wrote called Milk. I met him at a convention years ago. I was browsing his stuff, his trading table. I asked him what he might recommend, and he asked me what I was into. I picked up Milk curiously, asked him what this was about, and he just went, read the back, and I was sold, because it was I think the first sentence I read was Louis lactating. That book had me laughing on every page, like laughing out loud. So he's really good at blending comedy and horror. I find his particular sense of humour really tickles me, I guess. So I think he must have a similar sense of humour to me. Really can't wait to get stuck into these. And thank you very much, Adam, if you see this video. I really appreciate these books. So next up, I'm going to show you the books that we got in the nice little freebie gift bag. So The Gift of Joy by Ian Waits, and The Forgotten and the Fantastical 2, edited by Tika Bellamy. I'm so sorry, I'm awful with name pronunciation. If you've been watching my videos, you will already know that. I'm so sorry, please correct me. The void flew his back. So got these free in the goodie bag. I'm really excited because I haven't read anything by Ian Waits yet, but I'm really excited because he was at the convention also, and I heard nothing but praise for his writing, so I'm really, really excited. And this is an anthology. I love an anthology. It's my favourite. Sorry about the cat. I love an anthology. It's my favourite way to discover like new writers and writing styles that I like, so I really can't wait to get stuck into these. They're not near the top of my list, but that's only because they weren't the books that I was actively seeking out to buy at this convention, but I will be reading these by the end of the year, I would imagine. She says optimistically, even though there are shelves of books I have not read. We got 5 more to go, guys. Let Your Hinged Jaw Do the Talking by Tom Johnstone. I've never read any work by Tom Johnstone before, but I'm really excited. I picked this up purely on the cover, so whoever the cover artist is should get props for the sale, I guess. I think this is a short story collection, and most of what I picked up are novels, so this will be like a nice little break in between things, I think. I'll probably read this in about the middle of this pile, I would assume. Really can't wait to read it, so yeah, I will keep you updated on the writing of this fella. Next up is a book I have already read and reviewed, but I wanted a physical copy for my shelves because I really enjoyed it, and it's Starless and Bible Black by Susan York. I believe this title is a reference to a song or a band, maybe. I'm not very good with sort of pop culture stuff. So Sue, I got to meet Sue for the first time at the convention. Absolutely lovely person as well. More than happy to hand over my money. Very happy to have a copy of this book to put on my shelf. She writes, I would describe her as sort of like a quiet horror person. So if you're somebody who likes to be sort of like spooked and creeped out, but not like overly assaulted by like graphic, visceral gore and horror and, you know, like the loud stuff, that's what I would sort of equate it to. This isn't like a jump scary sort of in your face type of horror. But yeah, she writes really lovely sort of like subtle, calm, but unsettling. So that's how I would describe her work, and I love this collection. This one was also gifted to me by David Watkins, who is like a writer pal of mine who I really enjoy seeing at conventions, hanging out with, and I've read and reviewed another novel he released last year called The Exeter Incident, and also a little sort of short story / novelette kind of thing called Saint Neath, I think. That one, David! I didn't know it was about spiders. I'm very arachnophobic, so for that reason it worked as a great horror story for me. I'm a really big fan of David's writing. He's really good at sort of like fast-paced sort of like action horror, so stuff in the vein, the kind of like tone and the pace of David's work reminds me kind of like of Aliens, the film. Got your action and your kind of adventure elements, but it's horror. So yeah, I really, really enjoy his writing. I think this is werewolves, so I'm really excited because I hardly ever get to read werewolf stuff. I never have it sent to me for review, and I actually find werewolves and witches in adult horror quite hard to find, because most of what I find with witches and werewolves when I'm looking, I find a lot of YA, and I also find a lot of sort of, you know, like paranormal romance, or like cross species, like supernatural romance, and there's nothing wrong with either of those like categories. It's just kind of like not my preference when I'm looking. I want scary adult horror witches, scary like adult horror werewolves, so I'm hoping that I'm going to find that here, but even if I don't, I'm sure I'll love it because I love David's writing style, so can't wait to get stuck into that one. Last but one book, I have picked up a short story collection, which I'm told is sort of like folk horror vibes, by Jan Edwards. I've reviewed a story by her as well before. She wrote a great little sort of like crime noir horror book, A Small Thing for Yolanda, and I really enjoyed that one. So I'm very, very into folk horror right now, so I'm really looking forward to this because I've been, you know, just kind of collecting up any folk horror I can find. Really good. So very excited to read this collection by Jan, who's also a very lovely lady, by the way. Now, this last book I'm really excited about because this is a non-fiction again. I really love like good sort of like non-fiction horror topic kind of stuff, and this book is by Stephen Jones. It's called The Weird Tales Boys. Now, Stephen Jones I have been reading for years, but I've known him more as an editor because I started buying anthologies when I was a teenager, usually themed like stuff, you know, if I found like a book of zombie stories or something like that, I'd pick that up. And I started to notice that all of the anthologies that I thought were great and they were like top of my list for my favorites were all edited by Stephen Jones. So in a way I've kind of been like following his career for years and picking up books that he's been involved with for years. I think he's a really great editor. I think he compiles excellent anthologies. It's kind of a dream of mine to get to submit to something and maybe appear in an anthology at some point. So from what he said at the PS Publishing launch, again, this is a book about horror writers, like older horror writers that have been working for a long time and their work. I really love good sort of horror non-fiction, especially about writers. I love to read about writers that I'm a fan of, and I also love to discover new ones through stuff like this. It always makes me want to pick up their work. I can't wait to read it. I'm really excited. There was a foreword by Ramsey Campbell, who I love, in here, and because they were sat next to each other at the launch, I got it signed by both of them. So this is kind of like a prized possession of mine now. Like two of my favourite people in horror literature signed in one book, so I'm really excited. Can't wait to get stuck into this, and I probably will do a video review on my favourite non-fiction, horror non-fiction. Sorry, my other cat entered. Hey buddy! And I am planning at some point in the future to do a video about my favourite horror non-fiction works. I have plenty of those kinds of books to show you and talk about and rave about. So yes, that rounds off my FantasyCon haul. I can't believe that I went this nuts, and you know that it was quite a mistake initially, but now that I'm home I've forgotten about the pain. But I ended up having to park about 20 minutes away, so when I packed my case and there was no room in it for these books, I mean, I spent quite a good deal of time on the Saturday night trying to force these all in, but they wouldn't fit, so I had to put them in a separate bag, and they were really heavy. And then I had a lovely walk, and my back nearly fell off, but you know, I got them all home safely. They're like my new children. I can't wait to read them all and talk about them all. I don't know what next week's video is going to be about yet, but if you have any requests, I would love to, you know, comply. Such a conformist. Let me know what you want to see. Let me know if you've read any of these. Let me know what you might like a review video on. If anything here sort of tickles your pickle, I'd be happy to oblige. I still haven't thought of a sign off for my video, so please.